May 1945. Europe was dying. Cities that had once stood as symbols of power were reduced to smoking ruins. Berlin was surrounded. The Third Reich was collapsing faster than anyone had imagined. For 12 years, Adolf Hitler had promised an empire that would last 1,000 years. Instead, it was ending in fire. Every road leading out of Germany was packed with desperate civilians. Columns of exhausted soldiers marched west, hoping to surrender before the Soviet army arrived. Government officials burned documents through the night. Military commanders abandoned headquarters that only weeks earlier had been filled with confidence. The war was over. Or at least, that's what the world believed. Because while millions watched Germany collapse, something else was happening in complete secrecy. Somewhere in the mountains of occupied Europe, a heavily guarded train began moving under the cover of darkness. It carried no passengers, no ordinary soldiers, no refugees. According to witnesses, its cargo was worth more than anything Europe had ever seen. Gold, jewels, masterpieces stolen from museums, rare documents, and treasures taken from across an entire continent. The train left behind almost no records, no official destination, no confirmed arrival, no photographs showing what it carried. Only rumors, fragments of testimony, and one question that has refused to disappear for nearly 80 years. Did the Nazis really hide an entire train filled with unimaginable treasure? Or did one of history's greatest mysteries begin with nothing more than a desperate rumor born during the final days of World War II? For decades, treasure hunters, historians, former intelligence officers, military researchers, and even governments have searched for the answer. Millions of dollars have been spent. Entire forests have been surveyed, mountains have been scanned with radar, hidden tunnels have been excavated. Yet despite all of that, no train has ever been officially found. Some believe it still rests beneath the mountains of southwestern Poland. Others insist Soviet forces secretly recovered it after the war. Some argue it never existed at all. But if that were true, why do so many witnesses describe the same mysterious train? Why were underground tunnels sealed only days before Germany surrendered? And why, even today, do newly discovered documents continue to fuel one of the greatest treasure hunts in modern history? This is not simply a story about lost gold. It is a story about the final days of Nazi Germany, a collapsing empire willing to do anything to hide its secrets, and a mystery that still refuses to die. Tonight, we follow the final journey of what may have been the most valuable train ever assembled, a journey that begins long before the train itself disappeared. To understand where it went, we first need to understand what the Nazis were trying to save and why they believed it was worth risking everything.
Before we can follow the train, we first have to answer a much bigger question. What exactly were the Nazis trying to hide? To understand that, we need to go back 6 years. September 1939. Germany invaded Poland. Within weeks, the country had fallen. It was the beginning of a war that would eventually consume almost every corner of Europe. As German forces advanced from one country to another, they didn't just seize territory, they seized wealth. Entire national banks were emptied. Gold reserves disappeared. Government vaults were opened. Private collections were confiscated. Museums were stripped of priceless masterpieces. Families who had spent generations protecting works of art
suddenly watched everything disappear overnight. For Adolf Hitler, these treasures represented more than money. He believed Germany deserved to possess the greatest cultural collection in the world. Many of the paintings stolen during the war were intended for a massive museum that Hitler dreamed of building after victory. Other valuables served a different purpose. The Nazi war machine consumed enormous amounts of resources: weapons, fuel, factories, transportation. Every campaign demanded money. Gold became one of the most valuable assets Germany possessed. As the war expanded across Europe, the amount of stolen wealth grew beyond imagination. Train after train carried valuables back into the Reich. Some shipments contained gold bars. Others carried diamonds, rare jewelry, ancient manuscripts, religious artifacts, and paintings worth fortunes. Some historians estimate that hundreds of thousands of cultural objects were taken during the occupation of Europe. Many were eventually recovered after the war. Thousands have never been found. But there was another source of wealth, one surrounded by unimaginable human suffering. Jewish families across occupied Europe were systematically stripped of everything they owned. Homes were confiscated. Businesses were seized. Bank accounts frozen. Personal valuables taken. Wedding rings, gold coins, silver cutlery, family heirlooms. Even the smallest possessions were collected and transported into the Nazi system. Not every stolen item ended up in hidden vaults. Much of it was melted down, sorted, catalogued, or redistributed. By 1944, Germany controlled an enormous amount of wealth gathered from across occupied Europe. But there was one problem. The war had turned against them. The Allied armies were advancing from the west. The Soviet army was pushing relentlessly from the east. German cities were being bombed almost every night. Factories were destroyed. Railways were collapsing. Communication between military commands became increasingly difficult. For the first time, many Nazi officials realized something they had refused to believe. Germany might actually lose the war. And if Germany lost, what would happen to all of that treasure? If Allied forces captured it, it would become evidence. Evidence of systematic looting. Evidence of crimes committed across Europe. Evidence that could expose the inner workings of the Nazi regime. That could never happen. Orders began moving quietly through military channels. Important documents were relocated. Works of art disappeared. Gold reserves were transferred. Convoys traveled only at night. Some treasures were hidden inside castles. Others disappeared into abandoned salt mines. Several were taken into underground facilities that still exist today. And according to one of the most enduring stories of the Second World War, one final shipment was assembled during those desperate final weeks. A heavily protected train, loaded with unimaginable wealth. Its destination was known only to a handful of senior officers. If the reports were true, that train was never supposed to be found. But where exactly was it going? The answer may lie in one of the largest underground construction projects ever attempted by Nazi Germany. A place surrounded by mountains, sealed tunnels, and secrets that remain buried to this day. And that is where our story truly begins.
In early 1945, Germany was no longer fighting for victory. It was fighting for survival. The Red Army was advancing from the east with incredible speed. American and British forces were pushing deeper into Western Germany every single day. Entire military divisions were collapsing. Fuel was running out. Communication lines were failing. The Third Reich was running out of time. But while soldiers were retreating across Europe, another operation was quietly unfolding behind the scenes. This mission wasn't about winning the war. It was about protecting what remained of the Reich's greatest secrets. According to numerous post-war accounts, selected treasures were gathered into a final transport. Not dozens of trains, not hundreds of trucks. One heavily protected train. Its exact departure point remains uncertain. Some researchers believe it began somewhere in central Germany. Others argue the cargo was assembled from several hidden depots across occupied territory. There is no surviving document that answers this question with certainty, but many independent reports agree on one detail. The train was guarded by members of the SS. Unlike ordinary military transports, this convoy attracted unusual attention. Witnesses later recalled that civilians were ordered to stay away from the tracks. Railway workers were instructed not to ask questions. Some stations received unexpected military security only hours before the train passed through. Several former railway employees later claimed they had never seen such secrecy surrounding a transport. Whether every detail of those testimonies is accurate remains debated, but together they helped shape the legend that survives today. As Allied aircraft dominated the skies during daylight, many important transports moved only at night. Darkness offered the only chance to avoid detection. Some reports described the mysterious train traveling without lights through remote mountain routes. Others claim its windows were completely covered. Nobody could see inside. Nobody knew exactly what it carried. The official records that might have solved the mystery either disappeared or were deliberately destroyed during the final weeks of the war. As the train continued eastward, its destination appeared increasingly unusual. It wasn't heading toward Berlin. It wasn't moving toward Austria. Instead, many historians believe it was traveling toward Lower Silesia, a region that had become one of Nazi Germany's most secret military zones. Hidden among dense forests and steep mountains, the Nazis had spent years constructing an enormous underground network. Known today as the Riese Project, this vast complex included tunnels carved deep into solid rock. To this day, historians still debate its true purpose. Some believe it was intended as a new military headquarters. Others argue it was designed for underground weapons production. Many parts of the complex remain incomplete. Some tunnels were deliberately sealed before the war ended. Others have never been fully explored. It was the perfect place to hide something the collapsing regime never wanted the world to find. Then, the reports simply stop. The train reaches the region. After that, nothing. No confirmed arrival. No official unloading records. No verified photographs. No recovered cargo. Just silence. It was as if the train had disappeared into the mountain itself. For decades, people have asked the same question. Did the train enter one of the hidden tunnels beneath the Owl Mountains? Or did it never reach them at all? That question would soon inspire one of the largest treasure hunts in modern history. Because after the war ended, the search was only beginning. If the train really existed, there was one place where it could disappear without leaving a trace. The Owl Mountains. Located in what is now southwestern Poland, these mountains appear peaceful today. Dense forests cover their slopes. Small villages sit quietly beneath them. Tourists hike through the valleys without realizing what may lie beneath their feet. But during the final years of World War II, this landscape became one of Nazi Germany's most secret construction sites. Beginning in 1943, thousands of forced laborers were ordered to carve enormous tunnels into the mountains. The project was known simply as Riese. In German, the word means giant. And giant it truly was. More than 9 kilometers of underground tunnels have been officially documented. Massive chambers were blasted deep into solid rock. Concrete corridors stretched beneath the mountains. Heavy steel doors protected hidden entrances. Elevator shafts descended into darkness. Even today, many historians still disagree about the project's true purpose. Was it meant to become Adolf Hitler's new military headquarters? A massive underground weapons factory? Or something even more secret? No complete construction plans have ever been found. Many records disappeared before Germany surrendered. Entire sections of the complex were intentionally destroyed. Other tunnels were sealed forever. Some have never been fully explored. And that's exactly why the legend of the gold train refuses to die. According to one of the most enduring theories, the mysterious train arrived near the town of WWII during the final weeks of the war. Instead of stopping at a station, it supposedly entered a hidden railway tunnel built directly into the mountain. Then, the entrance was sealed with explosives. If that happened, the train could still be there today, hidden behind meters of rock and concrete, waiting. Decade after decade, generation after generation. Of course, there is one problem. No one has ever proven that such a tunnel actually exists. Researchers have searched the mountains for decades. Military historians have compared wartime maps. Engineers have studied geological surveys. Treasure hunters have followed every rumor they could find. Some claimed they discovered hidden entrances. Others insisted they had found ventilation shafts leading deep underground. But every promising discovery eventually led to the same conclusion. Questions, not answers. Still, the mountains continued to reveal strange surprises. Abandoned railway tracks, unfinished bunkers, collapsed tunnels, hidden chambers, forgotten military roads disappearing into the forest. Each discovery added another piece to the puzzle. Each discovery convinced more people that something extraordinary had once happened here. Then, decades later, technology changed everything. Ground-penetrating radar, thermal imaging, laser scanning. Suddenly, people believed they could finally look beneath the mountains without digging. And that's when the mystery exploded back into headlines around the world. 2 treasure hunters announced they had found something impossible: a train-shaped object buried deep beneath the ground. Within days, international media arrived. Television crews filled the forests. Governments became involved. Thousands of people traveled to WWII, hoping to witness the discovery of the century. Could this finally be it?
Had the lost Nazi gold train been hiding beneath the mountains all along? Or was history about to play one final trick on everyone? The answer would surprise the entire world. For decades, the story of the lost Nazi gold train remained little more than a legend. Every few years, someone claimed to have found a new clue, a forgotten map, an old photograph, a witness who remembered something from the final days of the war. But none of those discoveries changed history. Then, everything changed. It was August 2015. Two treasure hunters stepped forward with an extraordinary announcement. Using ground-penetrating radar, they believed they had located a train buried beneath the hills near WWII. According to their measurements, the object was nearly 100 meters long, large enough to be an entire railway train. Their discovery immediately captured international attention. Within days, news organizations from around the world arrived in Poland. Television crews filled the forests. Journalists reported live from the mountains. For the first time in decades, the legend of the lost Nazi gold train was no longer just an old wartime story. It had become global news. Speculation spread rapidly. Some believed the train contained hundreds of tons of gold. Others imagined priceless paintings stolen from European museums. There were rumors of secret military documents, experimental weapons, and even the legendary Amber Room. No one knew what was actually underground, but millions of people wanted the answer. The excitement became so intense that local authorities faced an unexpected problem. Thousands of visitors began entering the surrounding forests, hoping to find hidden tunnels on their own. Police increased patrols. Access to certain areas was restricted. Officials warned the public that unexploded wartime explosives could still be buried beneath the ground. The search had suddenly become far more than a treasure hunt. It had become an international event. Soon, the Polish government authorized further investigations. Engineers arrived with advanced equipment. Geologists examined the area. Specialists analyzed radar images again and again. The world waited. Finally, excavation began. Heavy machinery rolled into the forest. Bulldozers cleared the ground. Workers carefully removed layers of earth. Every day, new photographs appeared in newspapers across the globe. People watched with anticipation. Would history's greatest hidden treasure finally be revealed? Day after day, the digging continued. Expectations grew higher. Some experts remained optimistic. Others warned that radar images could easily be misinterpreted. Underground rock formations, natural cavities, or geological anomalies could all produce shapes that looked remarkably similar to man-made objects. Weeks passed. Then came the announcement everyone had been waiting for. The excavation had found nothing. No train, no railway tracks, no hidden chamber, no treasure. Only natural geological formations beneath the surface. For many people, it was a disappointment. The greatest treasure hunt of the century had ended without a single gold bar being recovered. Or had it? Not everyone accepted the conclusion. Some researchers argued that the excavation had taken place in the wrong location. Others believed the tunnel itself had never been reached. A few even suggested that whatever had once been hidden there had already been secretly removed decades earlier. To this day, no evidence has confirmed any of those theories. but neither has anyone been able to prove, beyond all doubt, that the legend is impossible. And perhaps that is exactly why the mystery continues. Because sometimes history leaves behind just enough evidence to keep us searching, but never enough to let us stop.
Nearly 80 years have passed. The war is over. The Third Reich exists only in history books. The soldiers are gone. The commanders are gone. Most of the witnesses who claimed to have seen the mysterious train are gone as well. Yet somehow, the story refuses to disappear. Every few years, a new document is discovered. A forgotten wartime map appears. Someone claims to remember a hidden tunnel. Another expedition begins. Another theory captures the world's attention. And once again, people ask the same question. Was the lost Nazi gold train real? Today, most historians agree on one thing. Nazi Germany unquestionably looted enormous amounts of gold, artwork, cultural treasures, and valuable property throughout occupied Europe. That is historical fact. Much of it has been recovered. Some of it has been returned to its rightful owners. But thousands of priceless objects are still missing. That is also a fact. Where historians begin to disagree is the train itself. There is no confirmed wartime document proving that a train loaded with treasure disappeared into the Owl Mountains. No verified photograph has ever shown such a train. No excavation has uncovered its cargo. And yet, there are enough eyewitness accounts, enough military movements, enough sealed tunnels, and enough unanswered questions to keep the legend alive. Perhaps the train never existed. Perhaps it was only one of many wartime rumors created during the chaos of Germany's collapse. Or perhaps it did exist, and whatever it carried was quietly removed long before anyone began searching. The truth is, we simply don't know. History is full of mysteries. Some are eventually solved. Others remain suspended somewhere between fact and legend. The lost Nazi gold train belongs to that second category. It reminds us that even in an age of satellites, laser scanners, and artificial intelligence, the past can still keep its secrets. Maybe the train is still hidden behind a collapsed tunnel somewhere beneath the Owl Mountains. Maybe it was dismantled decades ago. Maybe it never reached the mountains at all. Until undeniable evidence is discovered, every possibility remains exactly that, a possibility. But perhaps the greatest treasure hidden by the Nazis was never gold. Perhaps it was uncertainty, a mystery so compelling that nearly 80 years later, people are still searching, still debating, still digging, still hoping. Because sometimes the greatest discoveries are not the ones we make. They're the ones that continue to challenge our imagination. So, what do you think? Did the lost Nazi gold train really disappear beneath the mountains of Poland? Or has one of history's greatest treasure hunts been chasing nothing more than a legend? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into one of World War II's greatest unsolved mysteries, don't forget to subscribe. Because history is filled with stories that were never meant to be forgotten, and we'll uncover them, one mystery at a time. Thank you for watching.